Hello and welcome to this At One with Animals, Conversations to Inspire. I'm Janine Uppé, and these conversations are about animal communication, connecting with animals, opening our hearts and being inspired to see animals, see the truth of animals. These conversations are in support of the Global White Lion Protection Trust, and I will put their website details in the description of this video. My guest today is the amazing Saskia Hopff. Thank you so much for joining me all the way from South Africa.
Hello, Janine. Hello, everybody.
Saskia and I had a short conversation a little while ago about a workshop that she was holding, which she has now held, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But Saskia and I have never physically met. As many of my guests, I haven't physically met, although I've known them for years. We have both done Wynter Worsthorne's animal communication course, and that's how we connected. But I think you had actually completed it a long time before we actually met. You were one of the first ones to complete the course, weren't you?
It was just a plain correspondence course, so it wasn't as high-tech as it is now. And it was physical workshops, and it was, you got the module sent and then you worked through it, and it was done via email. It wasn't a post box and a letter. So
it wasn't that archaic.
No. So it felt quite high-tech then.
Yeah, we all only had emails for 5 minutes at that point. Yeah.
Still had to dial in.
Yeah, the modems. Oh yeah. So you've been doing it for a long time, and have you noticed a change in that time? With students? I mean, I know just in the last 6 years, how many more students are going through the whole course, but also with the openness in the, in everybody, the sort of layman's openness to animal communication.
Yes, definitely. So in the beginning, when I was in the beginning of this journey for me, being an animal or becoming an animal communicator, and I was so excited about this new world that I had entered that I couldn't wait to share it with people. And I found myself at dinner tables or parties very often alone the moment I mentioned that I had now learned how to talk to animals. And and I just couldn't understand it, because I thought it was one of the most exciting things to do, that people weren't more interested in it. But it wasn't that really, that they weren't interested. I just think it made them really, really uncomfortable. Perhaps they thought I could read their minds as much as I could read the dog's mind. Or I don't know what it was, or it just wasn't familiar enough. I think, often ignorance can make us very uncomfortable. So I think it had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, so it's so way out there for some.
Absolutely.
Some people,
or it was.
Yeah.
And now it's almost as if it's the opposite. It's almost as if, sure, you find your tribe as well. But so many more students have done courses before, I find. And it just, it isn't such a weird concept anymore. People have heard about it, have experienced it, and are definitely more open to it, which is lovely. And what I have noticed in workshops is, I often find people are either but let's just go back to the beginning. It's pretty much like a reawakening. So it's our ability to do anyway, but we've just, ignored it and not acknowledged it. So in these workshops, what we hoping to achieve is to reawaken this within people, and that you know, that everybody is able to do this. It's not a gift. However, I have found that some people are just more talented perhaps than others, you know, that it's like learning another language, really. And some people pick it up just like that, and they have an excellent accent. And other people, they need to sit down and go over the grammar and you know, learn the words. And but on the whole, I find a lot of people are getting it very quickly now.
Do you think that, you know, the people who struggle to get it, I mean, it's not that any one person is more able than another person, but that some people have a clearer path to it. So like you say, some people have to work a bit harder, but that's not to say that they can't do it. It's just maybe they haven't, you know, they're not so grounded, or they're not so clear in their minds or in their heart or something like that. So yeah.
Definitely. I think it's a number of reasons. The one is that that they don't believe enough in themselves. So there is a lot of self-doubt. That they perhaps haven't really experienced it, or they have experienced it, but they haven't noticed it in action. You know, the communications that we have on a daily basis with animals or other species really around us. That's the one thing. And, you know, we are very busy people in general. You know, we so easily distracted now, so even more than when I started this 16 years ago. You know, I believe that our attention span is about the same as they say a goldfish is. You know, they notice behavior when reading articles, that the articles have to become shorter and shorter in order for people to actually read them from start to finish. So that's quite interesting. That surely makes it harder, you know, to clear that space mentally and energetically to really have a conversation with an animal.
So yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. That I've sort of thought that myself. You know, remember when I did my first workshop with Wynter in 2004, and she said about how so many people have TVs on, even if you're not sitting down and watching TV, you just have the TV on and what, you know, making dinner or, you know, whatever. And it was after that I was very conscious about my TV, and I would turn it off unless I was physically sitting down to watch something. And I notice now, like, how many people have sound on in the background. But, you know, I'll be on my phone and, okay, I've got, you know, I'm not doing anything in this moment. I'm going to look at Facebook. And I've actually thought, I wonder how that affects, yeah, not just in the moment, but yeah, my ability to concentrate and stick with something.
Definitely.
And then, yeah, if you're talking about actually, you know, doing some kind of spiritual work, meditation, communicating with an animal, then it's like we have to work so much harder to get into that space.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have found, though, that the animals are very forgiving. And
thank goodness.
Yes. And very helpful as well.
Yeah.
And they do bring us back into that space, and you know, which is very gracious of them actually to do that, because it's a bit rude when we just drift off. And it does happen.
Yeah. Yeah, so you think that they can help us get into the state to communicate with them?
Definitely.
They can support us.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
And they do.
Yeah. I mean, my cat, for those who don't know, she usually, you know, makes a guest appearance at some point. Usually the tail in my face. She's just going to go out. Right, I'm going outside now. But yeah, she'll usually let me know I usually feel like she's telling me off. You've had enough on that phone now. Put the phone down. And now we're going to sit here. And yeah, so like I, just spend some time. She gets a bit demanding, and then she's it's like.
But this is the interesting thing. We think they demand from us, but they're actually giving us. I've so often noticed or heard from people saying, "Oh, I can't handle cats. When I'm busy working, they come and they just push their way in." And I said, well, there is another way of looking at this. They're just asking you to take a break, and they're just being therapeutic for you in that moment by saying, "Come stroke me, and it will make you feel better." And often we notice we're actually a bit frustrated or tense or annoyed with something, and all of a sudden sort of like, yeah, that's lovely, that's better now.
Yeah, and it's usually after you've given in to that request for sometimes I get stuck with Norwegian words and I can't think of the English, like that sort of cozy moment, and then you realize, oh yes, that was actually exactly what I needed.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. One thing, just to go back to something you were saying before, about communicating, for people who are, starting out, or, maybe feeling a little bit frustrated, sorry. I was just thinking about validation. How do you, when you're teaching people, for a workshop and then they go away, what do you say to them about how can they get validation from, that they're actually doing it right? So to build up their self-belief in their abilities.
Yes. So there is this belief that people that learn how to communicate with animals, they say, I can't do it with my own animals, it's too difficult. And it is difficult because you need to really tell your mind to shush so that you can be open to the messages. But it's entirely possible. And again, it just takes more practice. So you could be in a separate room and you could ask your dog, show me what you're lying on, or what are you busy doing now? Or you could check in with your friends' animals and get validation. Everybody knows somebody who has an animal. You could just connect with shelter animals and, try to maybe make it questions that are easy to verify. What do they drink out of? What is their routine? What color is the bed that they're sleeping on? Things that you really couldn't know. And what I often did, or what the animals even volunteered, is they would just give me a nugget of information that you could only know if you were connected to that animal. Like maybe the street address, or the color of the guardian's car, or something like that. So again, it goes back to ask the animal teacher to help you to and they do. Okay, sometimes they can give you a hard time if you haven't asked for permission, or they take their teaching positions quite seriously, I have found. And it's quite lovely, really, that ask them, tell them what you're struggling with, and see what they come back with.
Yeah, that reminded me of a experience I had once with Kaiser. I don't remember Kaiser, the big fluffy dog that I had.
Oh yes.
Yeah. I hadn't sort of purposely tried to communicate with her, because I'm always of the communicate with someone else's dog, don't try to do it with my own. And one day we were out walking, so I wasn't trying to do anything, and I just suddenly got this image in my mind of me unclipping her harness so she could run in the woods. And I was like, oh, right. So, that was from her, because I would never have thought
Yes.
that, It
Yes.
was just this clear message. And I was like,
Yes.
oh, yeah. It was so clear that there was no doubt it would come from her.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't even
absolutely.
thinking about it,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I just, one question that came into my mind when you were talking about, how to get the validation, which I think is quite an interesting thing to ponder on, is when we ask, what color is your water bowl? We know that animals see colors differently to us. We're assuming that dogs see, or animals see red, but the other colors are dimmer than what we see. How do you think they get the color to us if they're not seeing the color that we know?
It's really interesting. I see it as it going almost into some form of a translation in between. So it comes to you always in the most recognizable way. So just because you feel an emotion, it doesn't, or it's coming to you as an emotion, whatever the information is, doesn't mean it was sent as an emotion. And it's the same with a color. It still comes through to you as a blue, if it is a blue. So
yes, it's like there's a lot of information that we're not aware of. We just see it as blue, but they send the energy, because I guess that's the thing, that the colors have vibrations.
Yes.
So they see the vibration and send the vibration, which some part of us translates as blue. Yeah.
That's exactly.
I mean, I've never thought about it before, but that's so interesting.
Well put, Janine.
Couldn't have done it without you, Saskia.
I'll remember that for the next workshop now.
Oh, okay. All right. So I just want to go back to the beginning. Your beginning now.
My beginning.
Your beginning.
Right.
Yeah. So how, this fascinates me. What was your childhood like? In how did you, how did animal communication, like what happened in your childhood to lead you to animal communication as an adult?
I've asked myself the question a lot of times as well. And I think what basically happened at the age of 5, I swallowed a coin and I ended up in hospital and it had to be surgically removed. And as all 5-year-old little girls do, I fell in love with a doctor and I decided I had to become a pediatrician. So my mother really, really grabbed this thought and decided, okay, she needed to send me on the right school career and chose schools for me that were completely wrong. And with the best intention, but I'm really not scientific and I'm really not intellectual. But if you wanted to, I think it might have changed now, but I grew up in Germany. And if you wanted to become a doctor of any kind, you had to learn Latin and classic Greek. And school was really, really a difficult challenge for me. And I struggled. I couldn't sit still, couldn't hold attention, was rather rebellious. And so it became quite clear that, that wasn't going to be a career for me ever. But I always had this, I'm quite a quite compassionate person. Down to a fault almost. And I always had this wish to make things better. I was from a young age very environmentally aware. I noticed the trouble then already. I mean, we're talking about the 70s here. And I've always felt connected to animals. And I didn't grow up with animals. But, I would find the bird that had fallen out of the nest, or the pigeon with a broken wing, or in the middle, I grew up in a city, and in the middle of the city, I basically came across a tortoise, that I picked up and nursed back to health. So I had this connection, and but I also knew I was going to make a shocking vet or doctor of any kind.
You bring all the animals home with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, when much later, after many detours, I came to South Africa, and you are a lot more aware of the state of animals and the big divide between the classes, really, and how the animals are suffering through, you know, I suppose ignorance sounds like such a hard word, but it often is that. And, you know, I understand that if you haven't experienced love as a child when growing up because your parents were too busy to make ends meet, you don't know how to give love. You know, your first priority will be you and not the starving dog, you know. So I involved myself unwittingly in a lot of rescue, rehoming of animals, and I ended up with a lot of animals as well at home, because you can't rehome them all. And the beginning of my journey into animal communication, you know, I've always known subconsciously there was such a thing, that, you know, you have a connection. We all have this connection. And I was pregnant with my son, and my gynecologist receptionist had just done a course and was absolutely glowing and bursting with you know, the rewards of this course. And the moment she started speaking about it, I got all giddy. Do you know that feeling when something just so deeply resonates with you? That you just, I want to do this. I have to do this no matter what. And so the next opportunity that presented itself, I did a course, and life developed the same.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Was your family open to anything alternative, you know, when you were growing up?
My parents were very conservative. Very conservative. It was only that my mother later, after her second divorce, actually went on to a little bit of a spiritual journey, you know, and self-discovery, and sort of acknowledged that there was definitely more out there. And you know, you could see by the bookshelves how that changed from you know, traveling journals to the color of your aura. Things like that. So she definitely opened up more. And my stepfather, interestingly enough, all of a sudden, many years later, started talking to me about crystal healing, and I did a complete double take, because that would have never happened while I was growing up. So that was a big turnaround there as well. Okay.
So shall we talk a little bit about your workshop? And because I'd really love to, you know, I've never held a workshop in animal communication. I've thought about it, but I haven't come so far as to actually do it. So I mean, and I know you've done them before. This wasn't your first one, but it's the first one that you've held for a while. So what was it that made you, you know, think about wanting to hold a workshop? What was the kind of thoughts that you had about it?
Janine, I'm not really sure that thoughts had much of a role to play. It's sort of, you just know the time is right now. And the interesting thing is, when I became an animal communicator, I I never thought I would ever teach. You know, I have a funny relationship with teachers, I suppose one could say. So it wasn't really something that I ever pictured myself to embark on. I was encouraged, though, by my own teachers very much. And I did a course on how to become a facilitator. And there's certain words, and I have to give credit to my teachers, really. You know, when I hit a brick wall and I would say, who am I to teach? And my teacher said to me, who are you not to? You have all this information and you are in a position to give guidance. It's not your information. You have the responsibility to teach and to share this information to as many people as possible. And so that often just rings in my head. So when I get the message, I suppose you could say, that it's time to do another workshop, I need to get the flyer out as quickly as possible, just to trick myself into not into not backing out.
Yeah, don't give yourself too much time to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. But then, of course, so the flyer is out, the bookings are coming, or, you know, inquiries are coming. And there are a lot of moments where I sit and I go, what was I thinking? You know, why?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I definitely get nervous, you know, it'd be lying to say I don't. But then when I start the actual preparation, when I sit down and I do and I'm quite pedantic about, you know, I go down minute by minute almost. Not that I do it like that, but it sort of just structures it in my head, and I clearly seem to need that. Then I become really calm. And on the day of the actual workshop, I'm so excited and I'm so thrilled. And I actually can't believe that there are these people that are trusting me. It's very humbling that because it is a transformative journey. I don't necessarily tell them that. But, you know.
Well, I say about Wynter's course, you know, it's an animal communication course, but it's not, you know, it's not just about learning animal communication. It's a whole life transforming course. So yeah, totally get that.
Yes. Yes. And you know, it starts already the moment you sit down, basically. It's, you know, and I know they've agreed to be there, but I'm not sure they really know what they're in for.
And if they did, maybe they wouldn't be there. So better for them to not know.
Yes, exactly. And to let them experience it, you know. So because by then we have the animals on our side, and they charm them into submission.
You have a tail now as well.
I know. I'm getting some more support here too. Barb's has come to join.
Yeah, and Maya, because of my problems with my webcam, so I'm on my computer or my laptop. So Maya was like full body. Usually it's just the tail going back. She's, you know, full body today. Yeah. No, and I mean, that's where we all started as well, isn't it? You know, that's where we started. The journey was, you know, on a workshop, and yeah, you don't realize you know, how it's going to change your life. You just know that you want it to.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, I started a whole new business after the workshop, basically. You know, it's because I became so aware of well, I knew animal testing had happened, but I thought that was a thing of the past. So you know, certain things just don't wash with you anymore once you've really felt the energy and heard the messages from animals.
Yeah. So what was it like? What was the workshop like? And, you know, like, is there any sort of anything that stand out, experiences that stand out or anything?
So it was in a new space. There's a beautiful new space in Plettenberg Bay, just outside of Plettenberg Bay, called the Space Between, which is a new yoga centrum. and it was absolutely beautiful. The energy, it's just vibrating there. So that was lovely. I had children there for the first time. I had 4 children, and you know, the workshop wasn't geared towards them, I have to say, but they did ever so well. They really did. And I ask a lot of them, and they were rising to the challenge, and they did it and made it their own. It was wonderful to watch. I love that when you're doing a physical workshop as opposed to the online. It's you know, you're in the space and you just all of a sudden you see when the light bulbs go on, you know, in that circle of people that you with. And I love that moment when they're all of a sudden, oh, I got it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that first moment that you have that experience, they'll never forget it. No.
So it was the first time that I had children there, and it was the first time that I did the workshop in modules. So I had broken it up into 3 modules. The first day wasn't about animal communication as such. It was more about energy play and opening up your intuition. And, you know, if you do need validation and verification on how to get it via a pendulum or through kinesiology and those kind of things. And that's really quite mind-boggling if you have never, you know, done any of that. Then it's also important for me to get people comfortable with the concept of visualization and meditation. We do a lot of fun things and games, and you know, so that was just half a day, and that was great. What was really something that I didn't foresee, I mean, you can never really fully plan and know what's going to happen, is that there was a constant movement, because so normally you have the same people on day 1 as you have on day 2, and that wasn't the case this time. So I had different people on day 1 as opposed to day. It was actually just one person that did all 3 days. And that was interesting, because you, as a facilitator, you're holding your group in a bubble, you know, and you're constantly busy with balancing the energy of the group. You know, you obviously don't want it to get too low, but you also can't have it to go too high. And because there was this movement of the people even within the day, that was quite a juggling act, which I didn't anticipate. But another thing that was really exciting was, because I hadn't taught for so long, 2 days prior to the workshop, my daughter found in our front garden an owl feather and gave it to me. And as I was busy packing all my things for the workshop, I had this owl feather in my hand, and I thought, yes, I need owl wisdom for this. You know, the owl symbolizes, amongst other things, wisdom and the teaching energy. So I thought, that's it. I need that for this workshop. And on the evening of day 1, when I was home preparing for day 2, I heard this knocking on my window. It was already dark, and we had all sort of settled down for the evening with the cats and the dogs. And I looked to the side, I looked to this window, and there's this owl sitting on the windowsill, just looking straight at me.
Wow.
You know, we know they're around, we hear them, but I've never actually seen one, and not this close. And if the window had been open, it would have come inside. And the dogs were completely accepting of this presence of this owl, which was right there, right above the head of one of my biggest dogs. And
that's amazing.
You know? And it really knocked on the window to get my attention. You know, when your eyes see something and your brain takes a while to process. it was one of those moments. And then
wow, that's
after, I
amazing.
would say, I snapped a picture as it is taking off, and it flew backwards. I didn't even know that owls could do this. It flew off backwards, and then it was gone.
Oh.
But
Oh,
you
that's
know, if I
amazing.
had any doubt ever about animal wisdom or teaching
Yeah.
or them listening to us, or I just had this really calm feel of
Wow.
being held and supported and
Oh,
guided.
yeah.
And it was just amazing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. So, is there anything that stands out about any of the feedback you got, any of the experiences people had, any eye-opening moments that they shared, anything like that?
So when I do a workshop, apart from bringing in play, we mostly work off pictures, but I also like to work with animals in their physical presence. And it's always interesting how certain things will be easy for some and very hard for others. And it just sort of underlined for me the importance of having this variety of, letting people work with all kinds of animals and bringing them. And, everybody communicated with them, that was lovely. And there wasn't one person that completely struggled. There is a lot of self-doubt. I always find that. So we obviously work on, I wouldn't say, I don't even try to get people to get rid of self-doubt.
No.
I find it's more important to acknowledge it for what it is and just sort of, okay, fine, you can push off now. And, the same with when they're battling with their attention and the shopping list pops up, just acknowledge it and go back to the task at hand. But yeah, so for some, it was a lot easier to be with the animals in their physical presence. And for others, it was very hard. Some really did very well when we did body scans. And some seemed to be having a very great aptitude for working with animals that had already crossed over. And this is nice because, often I have them work with my own animals because it's easy for me to verify the information coming through.
Yeah, that's smart.
I don't need to check with anyone else. And, and fortunately, my animals have agreed to become teachers, so they're really helpful with that. So they're, but what I also noticed that the 3-module could easily be a 5-module course, because when I was on my way home, there were so many times I didn't mention this, or we didn't touch on that, or we didn't go deep enough with this. It's not possible to do everything, and I have to just accept that, I guess. But it's certainly inspired to do more of it and to offer further courses as well. And practice it.
And you'll refine it, I think, as you go, like you say. Maybe some things you did won't seem as important as something that you didn't do, and then you do it and then you realize, no, you were right the first time.
Yeah. And it changes with the people as well.
Yes.
What was quite interesting was somebody who had booked for day 3 couldn't actually make it, so sent somebody else instead to take his place. And so day 3 was quite deep, and you needed to have had experience, or so I felt. And yet the student just slipped into it like a complete natural, and just completely bowled me over. That was fascinating to where I don't think I'm a complicated person, but I clearly overthink or overcomplicate things, because I would have never thought, as a matter of fact, when the message came through, now I'm sending somebody else, I sent back, I'm not sure this is going to work. but it was already too late. And the student arrived and did it, you know, with flying colors. It was amazing.
But yet with some people that wouldn't have worked. So
No.
it's impossible
Definitely.
to know, isn't it? It's like trust that somehow set the boundaries. Absolutely. And then trust what happens. Yeah.
So it was the right person on the right day that came to join us, and obviously also had the right animal teachers that it worked, you know. And she had such fun as well. So it I was really, you know, you sort of do a little debriefing on your own afterwards.
Yes.
You know, and I just thought, it actually all worked out really as it should.
Yeah, perfect. And did you have any revelations after the workshop? Any of your own sort of things that you wanted to change, or that you realized were that you did really well?
I have noticed that I need to work a little bit more on, I had one student, one of the children, and she got a lot of colors. And so she always thought it was the animal's favorite color, but there was a complete different meaning actually to it. So I want to go a lot deeper into this, and I think I need to bring the meaning of colors more into the workshop.
That's a good idea.
You know, which is something that I have to occupy myself with a lot more as well. So that's definitely something that I would like to do more.
So is that in relation to, like, I'm thinking color therapy or auras, or, you know, is that?
I think that all needs to be, I think I need to explore that really, what, you know, when students get colors instead of words or feelings or visuals, what does it mean? And I also remembered that I actually went through a phase when I could see often colors. And I also actually assumed, it's a color that they like. But sometimes it can mean it's a color that you need to bring into their life. Or the actual color is the message that we just receive as colors.
Oh, interesting. And sorry, were you going to add something else before I asked you about that?
No.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Maria.
No, I was just enjoying watching you giving out love and receiving love.
Yeah, she's very present during these.
Yes, I noticed.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we're sort of coming to the end. Is there anything else that you want to share about anything?
You know, I feel, and that's definitely conversation for another time, but when I look worldwide at the way education goes, you know, in subjects that are being taught in school.
Sorry, Maya just beat me. She does that.
Every now and then, just to activate a meridian there. I just wish that more emphasis would be given to compassion, kindness, and empathy. You know, rather than manners and respect. That's one thing. I know it's different in other countries, but it's very much here the case. And I often think, and there is this old saying that respect has to be earned, which I don't agree with at all. I think whoever steps into my field gets respected. Of course you could lose respect, but you have it. You respect animals. They don't need to prove anything. You respect the baby. They don't even have the ability to prove anything in the traditional sense. And I think, if animal communication would be acknowledged more, and I think it would just change so many things for so many people around the world if we were just to see more and feel the emotions. I mean, I know a few countries that have now recently acknowledged that animals actually are sentient beings, which is quite new, I guess. So we are making progress, but it would be lovely if and intuition as such, I think one of the reasons why people do struggle with animal communication, doing it themselves, is because their intuition has been shut down. For men, because as boys, it's complete hogwash. Can't be. And for women, because if you were intuitive, for centuries it was dangerous. So you had to cloak yourself and feel safe by denying intuition. And I think it's really time that we acknowledge it for what it is and work with it.
So for anyone watching this who is just watching out of interest, they're not doing animal communication or anything, what are some, or one or two exercises that people can do just to start opening up to their own intuition? What can you recommend?
So if they're on their own, what I just find interesting is if you have a pack of cards and you pick one card upside down and you just feel into this card, and you start off simple by saying it's the color red, and you will feel it actually, and trust yourself, and you practice that. So that's one of the things. We did an exercise where I had a jar of marbles, and you set your intention, and you say how many marbles you grab, and you put your hand into the jar and you take it out, and all of a sudden you see you've grabbed what so it's a bit of a mix between manifesting it, but also having that knowing that yes, I've grabbed this. Or if you are in a city that you've never been to, don't use your Google map. Just find your way around without it. Just set yourself a place where you want to go to, and just trust yourself that you're getting there. And you do. It might not be the quickest way, but you will get there. Those are just a few really simple things that there are many more, obviously.
They're really great ideas. And what I think for me, being a very mental person, I need to do a little preparation to be able to do something like that, because I need to be a little bit more open in areas other than my head. So did you guide your students through some kind of preparation, a meditation, or
yes,
what did you do?
So we always do meditation. We also did some shape shifting, where we become an animal and we transform from our human body into, one time we were a hawk, and an elephant, a cat and a dog, because it takes you more, although you're working with your mind, it still gets you into your body, and you feel different in your body, which I always find is it's a fascinating exercise. But the first meditation that we do is normally that we really expand out. We're connecting to the light, and we becoming grounded in the journey by connecting to the center of the earth. And then, we have this light flow in us and around us. And from there, from our hearts, we open up and we expand out. Because I find when we're expanding out on a nice high frequency, it's really easy to have things go your way in a nice way, If it's having traffic not bother you, or finding the right parking, or having lovely experiences and encounters during the day, or in the case of animal communication, just really having that master key to unlock and being on that frequency that we need to be on with animals in order to communicate with them.
Yeah, it just reminded me of something. We have these moments in our lives where things are cemented. It's like when you can't deny this anymore, kind of thing. And I'd been on a retreat it was like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so 3 nights, and it was just amazing. Lots of meditation, togetherness, community. It was just it's like heaven on earth, just these 3 days. And on the Tuesday morning, I drove to work, not one car. There was nothing unusual about this Tuesday, except that I'd been on this retreat, and there was no cars on my way to work. It was bizarre. And it was so noticeable because it was usually a very busy journey to work.
Yes.
So bizarre. So yeah, I totally get that when you say about things, clearing this kind of inner space and then things going your way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
lovely to witness that and to become aware of it. I'm sure it happens a lot. We just don't take note, and often we don't notice an absence of something either. We notice a presence more. So
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Saskia. It's been so interesting talking to you, and I'm so glad you're teaching again, and I hope you've got plans to do a lot more.
Thank you very much. It was lovely chatting to you. I really enjoy our moments together.
Yeah, me too.
And I hope it inspired somebody out there to say, okay, I want to know more, and explore animal communication, or just even working with intuition, doing something will be wonderful.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for watching, and see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.